On February 24, 1968, the Soviet diesel-electric submarine K-129 quietly slipped out of its naval base on the eastern coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula. It was a routine deployment, or so it seemed. K-129 was on a combat patrol mission in the vast waters of the Pacific Ocean. On board were nuclear-armed ballistic missiles and torpedoes, making it a vessel of immense destructive power. According to protocol, the crew was expected to make contact with Soviet Pacific Fleet headquarters by early March, reporting that they had successfully crossed the control line. But that message never came. Days passed, then weeks. K-129 remained silent. Repeated radiograms from Soviet command went unanswered. Concern turned into alarm. By mid-March, it was clear that something had gone terribly wrong. The Soviet Union launched a massive search operation. Over 30 ships of the Pacific Fleet retraced the submarine's expected route, conducting sonar sweeps and even collecting water samples to detect possible radioactive contamination, an eerie sign of what they feared had happened. The sudden surge of Soviet naval activity did not go unnoticed. American intelligence and naval observers tracked the operation with interest and confusion. They noted that Soviet vessels were operating with active sonar, a rare and telling move, indicating they were searching for something large and lost. Rumors spread quickly within U.S. military circles. The Soviets had likely lost a submarine. Despite the vast resources poured into the search, K-129 had vanished without a trace. Families of the 98 crew members were notified, but details were sparse. The official cause of death listed on documents was vague, and the entire incident was immediately classified at the highest level. The submarine was even quietly removed from the Pacific Fleet's registry, as if to erase its existence. The Soviet leadership hoped the disappearance would remain unnoticed by the outside world, but the U.S. Navy had been listening. Using SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System, a network of underwater hydroacoustic sensors originally developed to detect Soviet submarines during the Cold War, American analysts reviewed thousands of hours of acoustic recordings. They discovered a peculiar deep-sea acoustic event similar to a massive underwater explosion recorded by a bottom-mounted hydrophone near the Emperor Seamounts, a range of undersea mountains west of Midway Island. Analyzing the data, U.S. Navy intelligence concluded that K-129 had suffered a catastrophic failure and sank roughly 600 miles northwest of Hawaii, settling at the bottom of the ocean at a staggering depth of nearly 5,000 meters. This was not merely a tragic accident. It was an opportunity. The CIA saw immense intelligence value in recovering the wreckage. Soviet submarines were a closely guarded technological secret. If the U.S. could retrieve even part of the submarine, they might gain insights into Soviet missile systems, communication codes, and nuclear weapon designs. Of particular interest was the cryptographic equipment used on board. Cracking Soviet naval communication systems could tip the balance in the Cold War. In mid-1969, the CIA began planning an audacious top-secret operation: recover the submarine from the ocean floor. Codenamed Project Azorian, the mission faced immediate skepticism. At a depth of over 16,000 feet, no submarine had ever been raised from such an abyss. The estimated success rate was a mere 10%. To first confirm the sub's location, the U.S. deployed the USS Halibut, a specially modified nuclear submarine equipped with advanced sensors, deep-sea cameras, and lights. After months of slow, careful searching, Halibut located the wreck. More than 20,000 photographs were taken of the remains. They showed that the submarine had broken into multiple pieces, complicating any recovery effort. Rather than abandoning the mission, the CIA escalated it. In 1971, construction began on the most ambitious maritime engineering project in U.S. intelligence history. The Glomar Explorer, a massive 50,000-ton ship, was commissioned under the guise of a deep-sea mining vessel funded by eccentric billionaire Hubert Hughes. The cover story was so elaborate that even many of the engineers involved were unaware of the ship's true purpose. At its core, the Glomar Explorer featured a unique moon pool, a vast concealed opening in its hull through which a mechanical claw, or capture vehicle, could be lowered. To keep the real purpose secret, different components were built in different cities. Even the claw itself was transported and assembled in sections. By the summer of 1974, the ship sailed to the recovery site in the Pacific, under the utmost secrecy. There, using an extendable pipe string system nearly 5 kilometers long, the claw descended toward the seafloor. It was a delicate operation. The ship had to remain perfectly still in the open ocean for weeks while the massive structure reached the submarine wreck. According to declassified portions of a CIA report, the capture vehicle successfully retrieved a section of the submarine, including the forward bow compartment. However, during the long ascent to the surface, part of the wreck broke away and fell back to the ocean floor. What exactly was recovered remains heavily redacted to this day. But what we do know is this. Among the items brought to the surface were the remains of 6 Soviet sailors. In a remarkable moment of humanity amid espionage, the CIA conducted a full military burial at sea. The ceremony was filmed, and in 1992, then CIA Director Robert Gates presented the videotape to Russian President Boris Yeltsin. The burial was conducted with honors, complete with the Soviet national anthem. Back in the Soviet Union, speculation about the fate of K-129 never ceased. The official explanation, if any, was murky. Some Soviet naval commanders believed that the submarine flooded through the snorkel, or RDP shaft, while recharging its batteries, possibly due to a failed valve. Others suggested that a hydrogen explosion, a known risk when charging lead-acid batteries in submarines, might have caused the disaster. One of the most persistent theories is that K-129's R-21 ballistic missiles may have accidentally ignited, causing a catastrophic internal explosion. These missiles used volatile propellant and complex ignition systems, and a malfunction under pressure could easily result in disaster. Regardless of the true cause, the fate of K-129 remains one of the Cold War's most intriguing and tragic maritime mysteries. The bravery of its crew was finally recognized decades later. On October 22, 1998, the President of the Russian Federation issued a decree posthumously awarding the Order of Courage to every member of the lost submarine. Today, the full truth of what happened in the depths of the Pacific still lies buried beneath layers of secrecy and nearly 5 kilometers of ocean. Please don't forget to subscribe or write a comment and put a bell so as not to miss new videos. Thanks for watching.